This is the Huey Alert Podcast with Craig and Shelley Huey, bringing you the tools to transform our nation and culture, the intersection of faith and politics.
Hi, this is Craig Huey, and today I'm excited about the guests we have. Shelley's not with me. She'll be with me next week, but I've got Governor Rick Perry, the former Secretary of Energy, and I'm excited because, for every one of us, what's going on with gas? What's going on with oil prices? We see it spiking, and it's so high. So, Rick, welcome to our podcast.
Well, it's a great honor to be here. We were driving down the road from LAX to come out to this wonderful resort, and I think we passed a gas station, and it was like $5.89.
And it's going up. That's
Craziness.
A big problem.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
And the citizens of the country understand that, and everything is associated with the energy cost, whether it's the price of food, whether it's the, this chair that we're sitting in here has probably got some products that were made from petroleum products. So everything,
yes.
Whether it's the cost of transportation, not just the price of gas at the stations, which is way too high, but that's a whole nother story.
What's happened in the last couple of years has been just tragic to households across America. We see it impacting the prices, like you say. And when you were Secretary of Energy,
I forgot that one time.
I know. When you're Secretary of Energy, you helped make us energy independent with prices at very low by today's standards. How'd that happen?
Well, it's really pretty simple. If you don't overtax, you don't overregulate, and you incentivize, you get more of what you incentivize.
Right.
So it is really that simple. You had an administration in Washington, D.C. at that particular time from 2017 through 2020 that gave incentives to the production of oil and gas.
Right.
It gave incentives to our allies around the world to buy American LNG. And so there was a market that was in need of that energy, allowing people's lives to be better around the world because of the use of fossil fuels, people's lives flourishing with quality of life, etc. And it really is that simple. If Washington wants to see the price of inflation go down, the cost of inflation go down, then you lower the cost of energy, because energy is at the core of practically everything that we do. I mean, when I go to the grocery store, and I see the cost of cheese, or the cost of eggs spiked up there for a while, cost of meat, everything is going up. I'm sitting there going, we're blessed in the sense of upper middle class Americans, and we've had some income. But I think about people in the lower middle class, or the folks on really fixed income, and what these energy policies are costing them, and how they suffer. I mean, literally, you can't go out to eat. They're making choices between, do I put gas in the car, or do I buy that product to feed my family? So that's not right.
It's not right, and people are suffering. But why? What has happened in the last couple of years to bring us to this point?
Well, again, from my perspective, this is pretty simple. You went from a pro-fossil fuel administration to a clearly anti-fossil fuel administration, and the cost of that has been catastrophic to the average American citizen. And they're basing it all on a fallacy. Science doesn't back up that you quit using fossil fuels and somehow, America reduced our emissions over the last 30 years by 25%.
Yes.
Because of the shift over to clean burning natural gas.
Right.
Why weren't we in the last 3 years trying to sell that clean burning natural gas to China, to India, to places that are building coal-powered plants hand over fist? I don't get it. If you really care about the environment, why wouldn't you send American LNG around the world and invest substantially into small modular reactors zero emission,
right,
walk away safe, and help that transition move substantially faster than we see today.
So we're talking about transitions, and you know what happened in Texas with the blackouts and people not, what was that year, 2001?
2021.
Explain what happened there.
Well, and this is something, I think this was the canary in the coal mine for the rest of the country.
Right.
Texas has its own grid. We transitioned back in the early 2000s and started putting, I always said if we could get to 15% of our total portfolio in renewables, God bless us, we've done good.
Right.
At the end of this year, Texas will be at 46% of its dispatchable energy relying upon renewables.
Wow.
That's stunningly scary.
Yes.
Because the wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine, and you've got to have that base load, and base load only comes from fossil fuels and or nuclear. And so we took our eye off the ball, and listen, I get it. The federal government was just handing out subsidies, hand over fist, so to speak, to build wind and solar.
Right.
And people took advantage of that, and we didn't give incentives to the fossil fuel industry for them to be building baseload, which, in my opinion, we should have been doing. But anyway, Lord willing, we will have people come in and build that baseload. We'll invest in the nuclear industry, whether it's fission or fusion, small modular reactors, which are safe and economically viable going into the future. And then we'll have the base load. Nothing wrong with wind and solar.
Right.
But they have to be in moderation.
And
kind of like all things, right?
Yeah. And they have to work, they have to meet the market demand. They can't be something that's subsidized by the taxpayer and create this
let the market decide.
Danger that you talked about. I heard you speak just a short time ago to some of the nation's leading investment newsletter writers. And we're here in California right now, and those investment newsletter writers were listening about, oil and gas and hearing what you had to say. This seems like a situation where the need for oil exploration is critical. What's your view of that? I mean, with ESG investing and all, it's so negative. And it seems like people are afraid to invest in oil and gas right now.
Yeah, I actually think we're at an inflection point in America relative to the flourishing of our citizens,
yes.
Whether you're in the United States or whether you're halfway around the world in Africa.
Yes.
So are we going to say, sorry, we're going to live in our little comfort areas with air conditioning and travel and do the things. You people in Africa, sorry, you're just going to live in poverty. You're going to live without any flourishing. You're never going to have a sonogram or an incubator. Just not going to happen for you.
Yeah.
We're going to have those things, but you can't.
Wow.
That's kind of what the black-hearted message from the radical environmental groups are saying.
Right.
No more fossil fuels, we're going to stop that. And yet they're not even for small modular reactors either. So I think we've reached that point where people are like, wait a minute, this whole idea that somehow or another we're killing the planet and we're killing people, the flourishing, when actually when you look at it, the opposite's true. If we don't have fossil fuels going into the future,
yes,
we are basically saying to hundreds of millions of people, yes, you're just going to die.
Wow. That, Rick, is powerful. We have to end the podcast right now. Our promise to people is to have it short, but I'd like to have you back.
We'll do it.
That sounds
Happy
awesome.
to do it, my friend.
And I'll have Shelley with me, and you're going to love it, and you've got some important things to talk to us about. So everyone, we appreciate you coming and listening to this podcast and watching it. What I'd like you to do is send this podcast off to your friends, to your social media, send it off to your pastor, send it off to anybody that you can. Let them hear this, a message that there is a place for oil and gas. We can have lower prices, and investing in oil and gas is something that's a positive, not a negative. And there's huge opportunity in that area. So thanks. See you next week.
Thanks for joining us this week. We are listener supported, so please consider partnering with us by donating at craighuey.com or by signing up for our free newsletter. We look forward to being with you next week. And don't forget to share this podcast with others.